All right, YouTube. Well, nearly 2 months of cruising has brought us to our second to last stop on the island of Martinique. The town you see behind me is Fort-de-France, the current capital. The original capital, Saint-Pierre, was destroyed by a volcano in 1902 that killed around 30,000 people. So they moved the capital here to Fort-de-France. Behind me is Fort-de-France here in Martinique. Over on this side, you can see our ship docked at the pier and some beautiful sailboats here in the harbor, as well as the fort up there on the hill. Couldn't ask for a better day or better weather. The wind is blowing in off the sea, making it nice and cool, even though it is a bright, sunny day. We're going to take a walk over here into town and check out what Fort-de-France has to offer. Well, as is the case with nearly every place we've been thus far, there are some shops set up here at the shoreside for patrons of the boat to find souvenirs and things like that, local trinkets and keepsakes that they can purchase, as well as taxis as well here, waiting to pick folks up. So Martinique is a French overseas territory. The currency here is euros, and the market that I'm going to show you footage of that's here along the waterfront is one of the nicest and most orderly markets that we've run across on this entire cruise. Really well put together. The items are displayed really well, and it's kept in really nice shape. It's one of the few places that I walked through that I actually saw things that I wouldn't mind buying. There are some tour boats that go out from these piers here for nature tours and things like that. You can see there at the top of the hill the French flag proudly waving in the distance over the remains of the old fort, which looks out over downtown Fort-de-France. In the background you can hear the church bells ringing. I believe it is 12 noon, and the bells from the cathedral over here to our left are chiming the hour right now. We're going to make our way over there right now. Bit of a personal observation here. It's interesting that this being a French territory, how much it seems like or has the same feel as Tahiti, which is on the other side of the world, also a French territory. But we were there last year, and it's just interesting how much Martinique shares in the atmosphere and sort of the commonality of things with Tahiti in some ways. In other ways, they're completely opposites, but it's still interesting, and I'm guessing that comes from the French heritage. It's funny, I was just talking about the common feeling between here in Martinique and in Tahiti, and we have just wandered into this market downtown, which is almost identical to another market that is in Tahiti. It's even got the same type of structure over the top of it, protecting it from the sun. So the commonalities continue. So while the two markets do look similar, I have to say the one here in Martinique is actually nicer than the one in Tahiti. It's better organized, it's cleaner, and things just seem to be run a lot better. The bathrooms as well are quite a bit cleaner than the ones we ran into in Tahiti, so score some points for Martinique. Coming from the States, it's rare that you even hear Martinique mentioned as far as Caribbean destinations. I could probably count on one hand the number of times I've heard anybody talk about Martinique. You know, more often than not, you hear about places like the Bahamas and Jamaica and things like that. But I have to say, overall, my impression of it so far has been nothing but positive. This is a nice place. Now, I do know it can tend to be expensive to get here. For instance, from Atlanta, where we live, which is a large airline hub, it's often $500 or more just to fly here. And that's for a round trip ticket. So that can be quite expensive, especially when a lot of the other destinations in the Caribbean might only cost you $200 or less to get to, like the Bahamas or San Juan, places like that. We are here in front of this lovely old theater. We found our way a little bit deeper into the downtown area. It says Hotel de Ville there at the top, which must have been what it was originally. But now it is the Theater Aimé Césaire. Here is a picture outlining the history of the hotel and theater. This was originally a town hall, started in 1884. So unfortunately, the former town hall and theater is actually closed, not open, but it is still a striking building nonetheless. So it was originally built as the town hall, and then later on an 800-seat theater was added inside, which then later on, after it was no longer used as the town hall, it was used only as a theater and turned into a historical monument. And there's actually a placard over there for the National Register of Historic Places, or the equivalent in France. So this has to be one of the coolest places that we've found on almost this entire trip. This is super interesting. This building that we are in right now, we're actually in the courtyard outside, used to be a courthouse. It was the Hall of Justice, formerly for Fort de France. Now, however, it is basically an open-air museum, but it's also been repurposed. Inside, there's some people that have businesses selling items, as well as offices and things like that. But it is a really interesting structure and has been completely repurposed. So here I will present some evidence of our going backwards as a species. This wonderful edifice here is the former courthouse. A beautiful old building with some real character and some real style. However, if you swing around to the other side of the courtyard here, that ugly monstrosity across the way there is the new courthouse, and as is evident, is really, really ugly. That goes along with something that I've been noticing a lot lately. I actually am a member of a particular Facebook page that shows streets in the United States, say 100 years ago and today, and it's interesting how we're sort of going back in terms of architecture. The old photos are always so much more beautiful, so much more appealing. The new photos are just concrete blocks that just look awful and have no character whatsoever, which I think is evident here in the former Hall of Justice, and of course this new one that I just showed you here. Looks like these people are just trying to outdo each other sometimes with how ugly and unappealing they can make these new buildings. This is an amazing view of some of the sailboats here in this beautiful little harbor in Martinique. Just beautiful. What a setting. The mountains in the background, as well as our ship over here to the right. So right now we are So right now we are making our way down towards the namesake fort overlooking the city, the walls of which are still visible there. It is quite a sight. That is a large fort as well. It goes all the way out to the end down there, as you can see. And the palm trees in the foreground here make it that much more scenic, as well as the enormous French flag that is mounted at the top, which is just barely visible over the tops of those trees there. Probably be more so here as I get down a little bit closer. You can see it waving in the breeze up there. This looks like the spot everybody is making their way to down here. Just as I was wondering about the island's beaches, here you go. Here's one right here in the shadow of the fort. Not very big, but really, really cute. And there's some people out here enjoying the beach, enjoying the water, in the shadow of the old fortress up above. Hope has decided to make her way down and test out the waters here in Martinique. See what she thinks. She couldn't have picked a better spot. So after nearly 2 months on the boat, we are at our second to last stop. Tomorrow we'll be in St. Kitts, and then we have 2 days sailing before we arrive in Fort Lauderdale. After this video, I'm going to sit down and do an entire video on whether or not I think cruising for 2 months is a good idea. Or more specifically, who it's a good idea for and who it's not a good idea for. Because there's certainly two different types of people, or two different types of people who would enjoy or not enjoy cruising for that long a time. And there are certain things that you want to keep in mind, like the duration of your sea days, as well as the stops you're going to, what type of stops they are, and whether or not the ports are set up to support tourist traffic or industrial traffic. All of those are things that you're going to want to keep in mind. So stay tuned for that video, and we'll definitely go through all of the salient points and try to give you a better idea of whether or not a 2-month cruise is something that you should endeavor to take. Well, there you go, YouTube. Fort de France, Martinique. One word would sum it up for me would be charming. Great little town, beautiful setting, nice people, and a nice second to last stop here on our 52-night journey around South America. It's starting to get dark earlier now because we're so much further north than we were before, and as I understand it, when we arrive back in Atlanta, temperatures will be between 25 and 17, so we have that to look forward to. You have Nevis and St. Kitts to look forward to next, where we will be tomorrow, and I will be bringing that to you as well. So until then, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thank you. I am the Ugly American.